value picks in your dynasty startup drafts. We're talking about that in today's video. As always, give us a like and subscribe. Much appreciated. We put out content all year long. And today it is dynasty startup season. Hopefully most of your dynasty rookie drafts are done. And again, a lot of you are getting into new dynasty leagues, maybe starting your first dynasty league, which if you are, congratulations. Dynasty is great. We're talking about dynasty startup, and we're looking at some value picks in the later rounds of your startups. These are players that currently have an ADP of round 13 or later. This is according to the guys at South Harmon, where they've compiled over 1,700 drafts. This is for Superflex. This does include rookies. So I'll leave the link to that ADP in the description so you can check that out. Without further ado, we're just going to get right into it. Coming up, number one, we have at the 1310 of ADP going as the wide receiver 60 is Quentin Johnston, former first-round pick, former first-round rookie pick. I forget where he was going in dynasty startup drafts, but he was going very, very high. And obviously he's fallen off for good reason, right? He had his opportunity last year and he just really sucked. He sucked. He dropped passes and just wasn't good. But I think we're a little bit spoiled when it comes to rookie receivers and expecting them to produce from year one. And if they don't, we just think they're complete busts. I know we've been spoiled by Puka Nakua's, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, even guys like last year, like Addison, Flowers, where they, Rashee Rice, they show you something, and Quentin Johnston didn't show us anything. The chances of him hitting are pretty low, but we're talking about round 13 of your dynasty startup drafts, and a lot of these guys are either 1 year hits or they're very unlikely to hit at all. They're kind of dart throws. So why not throw a dart at Quentin Johnston? And when I compare him to some other former first-round picks that have been disappointing so far in the NFL, Christian Watson, Jameson Williams, those two guys come to mind. Even Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson, you can get a round earlier than Quentin Johnston. Or you have to take a round earlier. Jameson Williams, you have to take over a round and a half earlier if you want Jameson Williams. He's going at the 11:03. Christian Watson's going at the 10:05. So we're talking about over 3 rounds, if I'm doing that right. More of over a 3-round difference between Quentin Johnston and Christian Watson, and all three of those guys have been disappointments. Now, I know for guys like Watson and Dotson, they've at least flashed a little bit, but the fact of the matter is that they're former high draft picks, first, second round, and they've been disappointments. So why is Quentin Johnston 3.5 rounds further down the list? So I'm going to take a shot on him if he's sitting there in the late 13th round, early 14th round, and I hope he just turns into at least a solid wide receiver. Next up, at the 14:06, I have for you Dontayvion Wicks, going as wide receiver 65 in the middle of round 14 of your dynasty startup superflex drafts. And my logic with this, as it has been kind of all off season when it comes to buying or trading these Packers receivers, is that I'm probably going to be in on whoever's the cheapest. And that's probably going to be the case for redraft as well. People are going to overpay slightly for Jaden Reed, maybe overpay slightly for Christian Watson. Even Romeo Doubs is he's going in the end of the 12th round, whereas Dontayvion Wicks is the middle of the 14th. There's a chance that just Dontayvion Wicks is just better than all of them. In my opinion, there's no clear cut. This is the best receiver on the Packers. If I had to put money on it, I'd put it on Jaden Reed or Christian Watson. But that doesn't mean there's no Justin Jefferson, there's no Devontae Adams, there's no Cooper Kupp of these guys. They're he's the clear alpha, and Dontayvion Wicks at best is the clear 2 or 3 option. It's not like that in Green Bay, in my opinion. We still don't know how this team's going to operate with all these guys healthy and with Jordan Love into year 2. So I'm going to take a gamble on Dontayvion Wicks and hope that he turns out to be the first or second best receiver on the Packers. A lot of people love his route running too. I think he's the best route runner on the team. Coming up next in round 15, I have Chargers running back Kimani Vidal. going at the 1502. And again, I kind of just look at the other running backs going in this range. J.K. Dobbins, Chuba Hubbard, Jerome Ford. Sorry, not Jerome Ford. J.K. Dobbins, Chuba Hubbard, Keaton Mitchell. Those are all the running backs, including Vidal, that are going in round 15. And then guys like Audric Estime, Ray Davis, they're going in rounds 16 or so. All those guys, to me, at best, are the second options. J.K. Dobbins, I like him, but he's coming off another major injury in a torn Achilles. Chuba Hubbard is going to play second fiddle with Jonathan Brooks. Keaton Mitchell is not overtaking Derrick Henry, and we don't even know what Keaton Mitchell really is. Kimani Vidal, he's kind of the last guy. Once you get past, Gus Edwards, Raheem Mostert, Jerome Ford, not really Jerome Ford, but Ezekiel Elliott is kind of the last guy where you're potentially getting a starting running back in Kimani Vidal, in my opinion. Now, I still think Gus Edwards, if healthy, leads the Chargers in carries, but that doesn't mean there's not enough carries to go around for Kimani Vidal, because there will be, because the Chargers are going to run the ball a lot. And B, that Kimani Vidal is actually the better running back and takes over. Gus Edwards is 29 years old, right? He's coming off the worst season of his career, where he averaged 4.1 yards a carry. Previously, he averaged over 5 yards a carry. So it's not like Gus Edwards is this stud running back that you can't see losing his job to a talented rookie. And I like Vidal. I've liked him since February. And the fact that he got on the Chargers is really, really nice. So I'm going to take a chance here, mostly because if you're going to go running back in the beginning of the 15th or middle of the 15th round, there's not a whole lot of options, in my opinion, that can turn into number one running backs without an injury. So next up in round 16, I believe, 1609, we have Sam Howell going as the QB 35. And this one's pretty simple. I mean, Sam Howell is signs or traded, I forget. I think it was signs with the Seahawks. Maybe they traded him. Traded to the Seahawks after starting the entire year basically for the Washington Commanders. And funny enough, like Sam Howell was pretty good there for a while. I want to say after the first 8 weeks or so, we had discussions of like, is Sam Howell the future quarterback for the Commanders? And then it just tanked and it all went downhill. But remember, the guy was a 5th round pick, right? He was basically a rookie. He was starting. The first time he was starting was, he started one game in 2022. So this was kind of his first season starting. And he showed moments. He threw 21 touchdowns. Now he threw 21 interceptions, threw for 4,000 yards. He has arm talent. And if he can learn to be a little bit more careful and a little bit more efficient with the ball, he could be a solid quarterback. Already last year, he was I believe, QB 12 on the year. Now per game, I think he was closer to like QB 20, but in terms of total finish, he was a QB 12. So like what I'm trying to say here is it's proven that if he's the starter in a super flex league, there's going to be some value for Sam Howell. And, he's backing up Geno Smith. It's not like we're talking about 2013 Peyton Manning here. We're talking about Geno Smith, who was a career bust up until 2022, had a really good year in 2022, and then regressed in 2023. And now you have a new coaching staff in there. They have no ties, no connection to Geno Smith necessarily. So Geno Smith's going to get the chance to be the guy. But if he kind of, sucks, flat out, if he just sucks, they're not going to take long to get Sam Howell in there. So I like the idea of grabbing, potential QB3 here this late in your dynasty startup drafts. And he's still young. He's going to be a backup for the next several years, which also they have value. Next up at the 17-12, I threw in Wan'Dale Robinson here. We're getting pretty late now into these dynasty drafts, but, Wan'Dale Robinson has talent. There's a reason why he was a second-round pick. He's flashed at times, and, he's been not been healthy. The team has really, really sucked, cycling through Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, Tyrod Taylor. He's kind of been – there's really been no good options in the passing game for the Giants. And Wan'Dale Robinson shouldn't be the wide receiver 1 for a team. He should be the wide receiver 2 or 3. If you look at the Giants depth chart, I think he's kind of slotting in to be their potentially their second most targeted player. You got Malik Neighbors, of course, who I think is going to lead the team in targets. And then you have, Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, Allen Robinson, Isaiah McKenzie, Darren Waller, who's probably going to retire, Daniel Bellinger, Theo Johnson. There's a really good chance if Darren Waller retires that Wan'Dale Robinson is second on the Giants in targets. And if they get a functional offense going with Malik Neighbors, providing that explosive play, Wan'Dale Robinson's going to thrive. He's not the type of player that can produce on a shitty team. He needs to thrive on a good team, a team that's moving the chains and moving the ball. So, why not take one more chance on Wan'Dale Robinson and see what he turns into? Coming in the 18th round, at the end of the 18th round, I have Sam Darnold. QB 39. And this is pretty simple, very similar to Howell here, where, you look at the other quarterbacks that are going around this area, Spencer Rattler, Jordan Travis, Trey Lance, guys that are going after the 18th round. These are all guys that need injuries to start. In my opinion, guys like Sam Darnold and Sam Howell don't necessarily need injuries to be the starter. I wouldn't be surprised if they take over as the starter or start the year. I think Sam Darnold, there's a good chance that maybe he starts the year as the starter. I don't think the Vikings are in a situation where they feel like they need to throw J.J. McCarthy out there. They have a good team that's surrounding him. So it's not like, well, let's just let him learn. And they could start the season with Sam Darnold, and who knows? Last year, and I keep bringing this up, the Vikings quarterbacks, whether it was Kirk Cousins, Josh Dobbs, or Nick Mullins, the Vikings quarterbacks, when they started and completed a game, they were almost always in the top 12 of quarterback finishes that week. Almost always. The only times they weren't really, there's a couple here and there, and then the times where guys got hurt and left the game, or they didn't play a whole game. So that offense is going to throw the ball a lot. You're throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson when he's healthy, Aaron Jones out of the backfield. Whoever the quarterback is going to be a low-end QB1, in my opinion, or, a top 15 quarterback. And that could be Sam Darnold to at least start the year. And we're at the point where if they do hit with the players here that are going around this area, and this is very, very important, guys, players that are going around this area, if they hit, a lot of them are not going to increase in value to where you can sell them off and get a big, make a big profit off of selling them off. The only guys that can really do that, to me, the number one guys are quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are the ones where, oh crap, Sam Darnold starts the year and he's QB 13 the first 6 weeks of the season. You could sell him off for a very high pick. The same is not true for other players in this. Khalil Herbert or Noah Fant has a big 4 weeks. No one's going to buy Noah Fant, overpay for him. So you got to approach it from that way in that position as well. Next up, I think we skipped round 19 because there just really wasn't anyone. Round 20. We're going to round 24, by the way. Round 20, I have A.T. Perry. A.T. Perry was a guy that I liked coming out of college in 2020, in the 2023 draft class. He played at Wake Forest. He kind of has all the tools you need to be a good receiver. He needed some time to develop. And he got that last year. He didn't really do much last year. He's a 5th round pick. Now, again, go look at the Saints depth chart. And you look at the Saints depth chart, and you have Chris Olave, obviously, Rashid Shaheed. Cedric Wilson is the wide receiver 3 listed in their depth chart. And that's not like they have like a Travis Kelce at tight end. They have Jawan Johnson. This team needs someone to step up to be the clear-cut number 2 consistent option next to Olave. And I don't necessarily think that's going to be Rashid Shaheed. Rashid Shaheed he has his role for the team, and it's a very important role for the offense. I just don't think he's going to be that consistent threat next to Olave that can line up, outside in 2 wide receiver sets. I think that could be A.T. Perry. You get Clint Kubiak coming over. He's the offensive coordinator for the Saints now. He kind of has, some San Francisco, Los Angeles Rams background with being he's with the Minnesota Vikings, and then the 49ers last year. So he has that background. This offense could be much better because of Clint Kubiak. So I'm excited to see what A.T. Perry does. Even if he's the third option, you're getting some value here, in my opinion. You're getting some value. We have, looks like four more guys for you in round 2106. It's another quarterback. Again, quarterbacks are super flex, are so valuable. So I like to stack up on, especially, backup quarterbacks need to be all rostered in super flex, lineup leagues. So Drew Lock at the 2106 going as QB42. Just apply the same logic as I did with Sam Darnold and Sam Howell. That Drew Lock, in my opinion, could take over as a starter without an injury happening. So he has arm talent. We know that, Drew Lock. I think the Giants and Daboll really like him. And Daboll has a pretty good track record. Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, his first year of kind of turning quarterbacks around a little bit. Drew Lock could come in and just be, he's not going to be amazing. He's not going to win you your league, but he could just be a nice QB3 option for you in a super flex league. And he gives you flexibility too. Let's just think about this. Let's say you have Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, and Drew Lock, right? Those are your quarterbacks going into a super flex league. It's week 7. Hurts and Herbert are doing well. Rodgers is a solid QB3, and then Drew Lock becomes the starter. Now that you have that covered this year, you have your QB3 and Drew Lock. You can be flexible with Aaron Rodgers. You can sell him off, get pieces back for him, get draft picks back for him, and you're still okay with Drew Lock as your QB3. He gives you flexibility. So that's what makes these guys so important. Don't think linearly, like a linear thinking of just, okay, well, Drew Lock, he's going to be QB 18. Think about what it does for your roster. Gives you another quarterback that you can play around with, move off of other quarterbacks that are more valuable to people, things like that. At the 22-10, a guy that's been getting a little bit of hype lately, the wide receiver 103, again, going at the end of the 22nd round, Jalen Tolbert. Now, Jalen Tolbert's interesting because he's a young guy. He was a round 3 pick in 2022. So he spent 2 years in the NFL. He hasn't really done too much his 2 years. Last year he had 268 yards and 2 touchdowns. But now, again, you look at this team, the Cowboys, they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. They're going to be a very good offense, most likely. Look at who their depth chart is. It's CeeDee Lamb, obviously. And then it's Brandon Cooks and Jalen Tolbert. I like to target these backfields or these wide receiver rooms where it's not very clear who the number 2, number 3 options are. And yeah, Brandon Cooks is probably the number 2 option, or maybe it's Jake Ferguson. But also Brandon Cooks is going to be 31 years old, and hasn't really looked very good for 2 straight years now. He had 8 touchdowns last year, but hasn't put up more than 700 yards in 2 straight years. He's definitely on the downside of his career. Jalen Tolbert could be a major player for this team. They kind of need a consistent second option to step up next to CeeDee Lamb. I kind of think of the old Packers teams with, MVP Rodgers and Devontae Adams. And, Devontae Adams is just a monster, and he's the whole passing offense. And they get into the playoffs and they shut down, good teams can shut down Devontae Adams. They shut down their team's number 1 offense, and the Packers just melt down because they have no other consistent number 2. And I think about that with the Cowboys and CeeDee Lamb of like, man, they need a consistent number 2 to step up. They did not draft anyone in the first couple rounds. So I kind of like Jalen Tolbert as a sneaky. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the wide receiver 2 for the Cowboys this year. And that definitely want to be drafting that. I mean, just look at where Brandon Cooks is going. Okay, not as high as I thought, but he's going in the 1801. So anywhere from the late 17th to the early 18th. So you're talking about, you're talking about 5 rounds of value here on the guy that could be the wide receiver 2. So Jalen Tolbert, kind of like that pick there. Two more for you. Joe Flacco, 20. He's going at the end of the 23rd round. He should be rostered, obviously, in your dynasty startup leagues. Just think about who he's backing up. He's backing up Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson got hurt 3 times last year in the 4 games that he played. He got hurt 3 times in the 4 games he played. He got hurt at the end of week 1. He got hurt week 2, and then he got hurt in week 4, or week 5, which ended his season. Literally, they played 5 weeks with Anthony Richardson before he went on the IR. He got hurt in week 1. I think he got hurt in week 1. He got hurt in week 2, missed week 3, and then week 5 he had his season-ending injury. I'm going to take the backup. I'm going to value the backup for Anthony Richardson very, very highly. And the fact that it's Joe Flacco, a guy that came in, lit it up. How do you think Joe Flacco is going to do with Shane Steichen running the offense, handing the ball off to Jonathan Taylor, throwing the ball to Michael Pittman, A.D. Mitchell, Josh Downs? He's going to do pretty well. And he will sling the ball. So Joe Flacco's incredible value, in my opinion, here. And then last but not least is at the 24-10, round 24. Not a whole lot here, but I did want to highlight Blake Watson because I really do like him. I had him as a, for after your dynasty rookie drafts, add to your taxi squad type of player. Blake Watson, to me, he had one of those careers in college where he was like, he's kind of a hybrid running back wide receiver. You look at his, he only played 2 years in college, and you look at his last year at Memphis, he had 192 carries and 53 catches. So, like, at the very least, this guy is an extremely talented pass catcher, but also he has the size. He has the size to be a running back. He does. He's I think he's 5'10", 200. So he's not huge, but it's not like he's tiny. So to me, he has the size to be a running back. He's going to Sean Payton and the Broncos, who Sean Payton loves his undrafted guys, especially in the running back position. Running backs generally under Sean Payton-led teams are like fantasy gold. They weren't necessarily for that last year, but go look at the target percentage. Go look at the target percentage for running backs last year for the Broncos. They led the league, and over 32% of their targets went to running backs. Over 32% of their targets went to running backs. And that's not, a coincidence. Look at the Saints under Sean Payton all those years. 2020, 28% of their targets went to running backs. 2019, 28.2% of their targets went to running backs. Yeah. 2018, a little bit lower, but 29.5% of their targets went to running backs. So just Blake Watson, take a shot on him, see what happens in training camp. If he's third or fourth, if he's fourth on the depth chart, which he could be, because you're talking about Javonte Williams, Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin, Samaje Perine, and Blake Watson. He could be fourth or fifth. He could be a practice squad guy. Well, you can cut him. It doesn't matter. Look at the other guys going in round 24. Trey Tucker for the Raiders. Chase Claypool. Cornelius Johnson, a 7th-round pick for the Chargers, rookie. Sky Moore, how the mighty have fallen. Guys like that. They're just – all of these guys are very low chance of hitting. So take a chance on Blake Watson. I think there's a chance that he could reward you. So there you have it, guys. Those are some value picks, guys, some later round sleeper guys, post round 12 of your Dynasty Superflex startup drafts that I would be targeting in each round. Hit like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll catch you guys all in the next video.